Welcome, pool guys and gals, to the Let's Talk About Pools podcast, where your host, Lauren Broom, will take a splash into many topics in the pool industry to educate all aquatic professionals. Listen in, and you just might be surprised what you'll learn. So let's jump right in.
Welcome, everybody, today to the Let's Talk About Pools podcast. And on episode 44, I interviewed Robert Burrows with Surewater Technologies, and he's going to talk about their Venturi system that feeds liquid pool chemicals into the pool. I hope you enjoy this episode. It's not talked about a whole lot in our industry, so I thought it would be an interesting topic for us to get educated on today. And I want to say thank you to my awesome podcast sponsors, of course, Skimmer and Blu-ray Etzel, which I've seen both of them at the trade shows recently during trade show season this year in 2023. So let's jump right into this episode, but let's hear from Skimmer, our podcast sponsor, first. Thank you, and I hope you continue to enjoy the podcast, listeners.
Skimmer is an app that's built for pool service companies, and it really does everything they need to run their businesses. We have tens of thousands of techs using our app every day in the pools, in the field, and being able to just simply swipe left, swipe right, scroll up and down, take photos. Everything is so easy, it can be done with one hand. We know how hard our clients are working every day, and so we feel it's our responsibility to make sure we deliver a top-notch product and a support team that's capable of pleasing and satisfying our customers.
You can literally pick up the phone and someone will answer. And that sounds very obvious, but it's not when you talk to tech companies. And it makes you feel like you have a voice and they listen and they actually respond to it.
When I first started, we were just pen and paper, putting door tags on. We actually tried a bunch of different apps. Seemed to always be something missing. We ran across Skimmer, and this one's by far been the most efficient, the cleanest, the easiest to work with.
I've looked into creating in-house ways of tracking and doing the same thing. It can be very costly. Skimmer allows you to have a customized experience because they listen to your feedback. It's like having a custom platform without the cost and labor involved in managing that.
So I was very impressed with the affordability of Skimmer, the benefits that we get in terms of maximizing route efficiency and being able to keep a record of all the chemicals used and pictures of all the pools all in one spot and information we can access immediately. It's just incredible.
The technician will do all these little clicks and say what they did and what chemicals they put in. They'll take a picture of the pool, and then Skimmer does this great report that gets emailed to the customer at the end, telling them what they did and how they did it, what chemicals they added, and customers absolutely love it.
For as long as I'm in business, I don't see myself ever doing business without using Skimmer. It's just the top of the line product to use within the market, and it just saves so much time while also being personalized to your company. Skimmer is a company that's going to keep your database and everything completely organized and in line for you.
One of our goals is to help our clients grow their companies, and we see every year, every day, we get feedback from our clients thanking us for allowing them to grow, allowing them to hire more folks, allowing them to make more money and put their kids through college, to have more time and more free time on the weekends. It's always a huge compliment when we hear our customers talk about how much they've been able to grow, how many folks they've been able to hire and employ thanks to the app.
Welcome, everybody, today to the Let's Talk About Pools podcast. And on my podcast episode today, I'm interviewing Robert Burrows. He's the VP of Sales and Marketing for Surewater Technologies. Thank you for being here today, Robert. How are you?
I'm doing great, Lauren. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about you and Surewater Technologies.
Well, my background is in aquatics in the parks and recreation industry. I've been in the private sector and in a resort operation, and also in a number of municipality operations. I have a degree from the University of Florida, go Gators, in recreation management, and with a specialty certification in aquatics. So
wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I had to take a lot of aquatic classes to get that, but they were great. And I learned a lot, and I've had 25 years experience in the industry, in the hands-on, in primarily Parks and Rec, pool operations and lifeguarding and swim instruction and all of that. So
you know our audience very well that's listening.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I hope so.
So tell us what brought about the development of the system through Surewater Technologies, the solution feed system.
This feed system was really brought about by necessity. And as they say, necessity is the mother of invention. This was truly the case in this situation. Myself and Peter Alexander, the founder of Surewater Technologies, the president, CEO, and designer and developer of Surewater Feed Systems, worked together for the city of Orlando for many years. And at the time when gas chlorine many years ago was being heavily regulated by the federal government, we made the decision to convert our pool systems over to liquid bleach or liquid chlorine feed. And we were using the conventional metering systems that were available on the market, and we tried a number of them. We had some success, but we found that there were a lot of problems that we were encountering, and they were very high maintenance. So Pete put his inventive skills to work and came up with a Venturi feed system that was designed as a vacuum system versus a pressure system, which helped to eliminate a lot of the problems that result from pressure systems, leaks in the lines and breakdowns of the mechanical equipment. It's a very simple system, and through a bit of trial and error, he was able to determine that was going to work. It essentially mimicked the gas feed systems that were based on Venturi and vacuum feed. And it turned out to be so successful, he made the decision that he was going to go ahead and get it patented and NSF listed. And through that process, which took some time, he was able to develop the company, Surewater Technologies, and decided to go commercial with some encouragement from a lot of people in the industry that had been watching kind of over his shoulder and the company's shoulder in the early days. So we found that process worked extremely well, eliminated a lot of the issues that we were having with metering liquid chlorine into the pools, and it just made such a difference for him as an operator and for me as the manager of multiple pools, not having to worry about whether the chlorine was going to be where it needed to be during the course of a busy day. So
awesome. So you found a need, found a solution to it, and invented something, and it worked. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Is there any good examples of some swimming pools using the system?
Well, yes, and it ranges from fairly small swimming facilities, some of the smaller neighborhood pools. There's one in Orange County, Florida, that is probably somewhere in the vicinity of 100,000 gallons, all the way up to pools that are multiple millions of gallons. There's one in Ohio at a amusement park called Coney Island in Cincinnati. That's 3 million gallons. Now, they chose to use two of our larger feed systems, which are designed to feed a facility up to a million gallons in water. And they have had no issues whatsoever keeping their chlorine where it needs to be. And you can imagine 3 million gallons of water in an amusement park.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I'm not sure if they still claim the record of the largest flatwater pool in the world or not, but it is one of them, if not the largest. Some of these crystal pools that are out now are are multiple millions of gallons of water, and so it's hard to put a number on that. But so it ranges. This primary feed system, the solution ranges from somewhere in the vicinity of 50,000 gallons, which is kind of what we've chosen as a minimum, to 1 million gallons. One feeder will range that far in its feed capability. So,
wow,
yeah,
well, that's some good examples there. So, how does the solution vacuum induction system work as opposed to conventional liquid feed systems?
Well, I've mentioned previously that it's a vacuum system, and essentially it is driven by a venturi. And in opposition to most of the other systems, liquid feed systems that are metering systems out there, they're either a peristaltic or the other type of feed system, metering system that is used primarily on swimming pools for liquid feed. Venturi feed system, essentially, in layman's terms, sucks the liquid into the pool rather than pushing it into the pool. And so just with that alone, it makes a big difference in some of the things that can happen during the course of that process. The way the venturi works is that a bypass line is established off the main return line. It can be done in a number of ways, but primarily you take the post-filtered water and run a bypass line with the venturi that's part of the solution feed system in line. And as the water goes through the venturi and the velocity of the flow increases, the pressure within the venturi at the inlet, the feed inlet, decreases, creating a vacuum. And that literally sucks the fluid through the feed system. So basically, you're just metering it with the metering valve in the system, allowing a certain amount, a very specific amount of flow through. Now, these are bulk feed systems, and they're designed in such a way that they will meet any demand at any given time that the controller says there's feed required because of a large loading event in the pool, or a swim meet, or anything of that nature, very hot day or poor weather. The controller, which is required with our system.
I was going to ask, is it going to can it be connected to like a ORP, oxidation reduction potential type controller to
Absolutely.
Control that? And this is solely chlorine we're talking about, right? With the system?
This system that we're talking about right now, the solution feed system, is solely chlorine. It was designed to really take the place of metering pumps, of the pressure systems. At the time it was designed, Cal Hypo systems weren't really well into the market yet. They were just coming on to the scene, and the industry was starting to trial them. Other systems that are out there, the generation systems that are now widely used, were also really just kind of getting their footholds in the market a little bit. But so this system has been on the market for 20 years now, and we have installations all over the world and all types of facilities, and also in other industries as well, including amusement rides and potable water systems, wastewater systems.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing, the applications, but it's Venturi feed systems are very adaptable. If you go online and you just Google Venturi feed systems and start browsing, you'll see them everywhere. So, and most people that are familiar with Venturis understand that and know that it's a really applicable unit within the recreational water industry.
Wow.
This will be a brief intermission so I can introduce my other awesome podcast sponsor, Blu-ray Etzel. Please listen in, and thank you, Blu-ray.
Blu-ray XL is the power of minerals working for you. Reduce your overall chemical costs and labor up to 50% guaranteed. Whether you have 20 accounts or 20,000, Blu-ray XL's direct pricing and free shipping to the pool trade have you covered. Improving pool professionals' profit and work-life balance is what they do. Blu-ray XL, the real mineral purifier. Visit them at BluRayXL.com.
Blu-ray all day.
It sounds really cool. I didn't know a whole lot about them. I've seen one out in Orange County when I taught a CPO class. I think it was the Orange County Parks and Rec facility, Fort Gatlin, over there in Orlando,
Yeah,
Florida.
that's the one I was referring to before. Yeah.
Yeah. So what benefits have your customers realized with the use of a Venturi feed in the operation of their aquatic facility, Robert?
Well, we have a whole list of benefits, but the main thing is the ease of operation for the operators and the safety that is put into place with a vacuum system versus a pressure system. I can't tell you how many times I got phone calls from my staff, my non-operator staff, but CPO certified lifeguard managers who would call me and say, I smell bleach in the pump room. And it was because we had a line that had gotten a pinhole leak and it was skeeting bleach under pressure across the pump room, and inevitably right onto a control panel or an electrical panel of some kind. But there's a lot of safety with the MOC code. There's a lot of safety controls in place now that keep that kind of thing from happening. But a Venturi system eliminates that, and that's one of the biggest benefits: the safety for the operator and for any other staff that might be in the facility where the feed equipment is installed, but also for the patrons, because the large capacity feed, and what we call it is high capacity feed, HCF. Our systems feed at a very high rate. The solution will feed up to 1,728 gallons per day, which, if you do the math, you're looking at up to a gallon, 1.2 gallons per minute. Now, that seems like a very large capacity, and it is, and it was designed that way intentionally because it uses a per minute feed type philosophy or approach rather than a per day. And that's one of the things with feeder sizing that people have difficulty with, because they take a per day feed requirement for their pool, how much chlorine a pool might use during the course of the day. And so they size accordingly. And then when push comes to shove during the course of the day, and the bus unloads out front with, 50 kids from the community center, and they all jump in at once, and chances are none of them have hit the shower, you end up with a very quick demand on that water, on that body of water. And so you need to be able to feed at a very high rate per minute. And the solution does that. It gives you what you need. The controller says feed. It feeds in intervals until it reaches the set point, which it can do in a very quick, very limited amount of time, and it shuts off. So one of the other benefits that we've found that has come from that is that you are using a smaller amount of chlorine. People also think that with such a large capacity, you're going to be feeding more chlorine and you're going to use more chlorine. But under accurate control of a ORP controller, it provides a very tight window as far as the feed is concerned. And so, like your thermostat in your house, you set it at a particular rate, and in this case, you would put a rate in on your controller that you want it at, whether it's ppm or ORP number, and the feed system will keep it at that set point. And that benefit has evolved into other benefits like chloramine control. We started realizing, based on customers' input, that chloramines were being reduced in their facilities because they were able to stay on their set point, and they chose a set point, say an ORP of 750 or 800. They would be able to stay there, and they were staying ahead of the waste material that was entering the pool that was causing the development of chloramines. And so in 1984, 85, we put together a study in several facilities. They just happened to be primarily in the north, but we also joined with the Long Center in Clearwater to study the system as well, and its effect on chloramine development through the use of high capacity feed liquid chlorine. And we were able to determine that it minimized the chloramine development to a level of 0.3 or less, which is the standard for the most part, minimum or maximum standard.
Yep.
And a lot of people use it in our system in conjunction with UV, and they have found that they have no chloramines. It was amazing to us because we didn't really know that would be a possibility. We knew that the feed system could keep up with demand, but by keeping up with demand and staying ahead of that oxidation that's necessary to keep chloramines from developing, we were able to determine that simply by feeding a high capacity liquid chlorine, you're able to control chloramines to a very great extent. So that was a huge benefit.
That's a big finding.
Oh yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, it was.
So, what alternative feed systems does Surewater Technologies offer to the recreational water industry?
Okay, so we have a line of feed systems. They are not all NSF listed at this point, but the second system that Peter Alexander developed was essentially a sister system to the solution. He needed and desired a Venturi feed system for acid feed.
I was going to ask about that because normally in conjunction on a public facility, you have liquid chlorine, then you're going to have an acid feed type system to counteract those effects.
That's right. So we highly recommend that people feed acid in conjunction with CO2. The acid helps with regulating the pH and keeps the alkalinity down, which tends to drive up when you're feeding CO2. The CO2 does for the most part your pH control. But the system that he designed is called the Solution X2. And a lot of people have fun with that X2 name because it's so popular in the movie industry and others, automobiles, in fact, as well. But the Solution X2 has been around since 2005. He designed that and had it tested and listed through NSF for use as a dual purpose feeder. That's where the X2 ×2 comes from.
Gotcha.
So it is listed and able to feed both bleach for smaller facilities and also acid. And as far as the acid side is concerned, we used products within the feed system that were compatible with both of those products, bleach and acid. But on the acid side, not only muriatic acid, which the hydrochloric acid that most people are used to using in pools, but also sulfuric acid, which is very popular in a lot of other places in the country and world. And so it's compatible with all three of those individual products, and does a great job on the acid side. It does a great job on the bleach side, but it was specifically designed for pH and alkalinity control to be used in conjunction with liquid chlorine, and it works side by side. And in many installations around the country and world, for that matter, we have both of those systems in place, working in tandem with each other. Now, it also has to be controlled through the automated controller. And so both of those systems are tied electrically into the controller, whether they're plugged directly into the controller box or whether they're wired separately, but interlocked. And they're all interlocked with the main recirculation pump with the automated controller. So if there's any issues with feed, they simply are shut off as the system dictates. Now, the other thing with a Venturi feed system is it doesn't work if there's not pressure going through the line. So if the pump shuts off for any reason, you also shut off your flow through the bypass line and the Venturi, which inactivates the flow through the Venturi and through the chemical feeder. So you're not having any accidental feed into the system, where you might have that happen with metering pumps that aren't necessarily working in the same manner.
So it almost sounds like there's a double safety feature there, the electrical
Absolutely.
interlock, but then the Venturi basically doesn't do what it's supposed to do either if the pump's down.
Absolutely. And
so that sounds great, because I've walked into, Stenner pumps still running, and they're not properly electrically interlocked. So they will pump, that type of pump will continuously pump the liquid chlorine and acid into the line.
Correct, yeah. And
there's not a secondary safety thing there to stop that, like it sounds like there is with the Surewater.
That was another driving force, with the development of this system. We had few, but notable leaks or bypasses where the bleach went through the system, and we came in the morning and the tank had practically drained. So you always have to double check before you let anybody into the pool what your chemical levels are. But we have another system as well, and I'll just touch on that. We call it the Solution CN03. It was designed actually specifically for an application in Abu Dhabi, Yas Water World, which is a very large, very famous water park in Abu Dhabi. And this system feeds upwards of 4,500 gallons per day. So it's quite an extensive feed rate, but it was designed specifically to be used with generated bleach, a very low percentage of available chlorine, maybe 0.8 parts per million of chlorine. So it's not designed to be used with the traditional 12 or 15 part per million or 10 part per million chlorine that's available on the market that most people use, specifically or especially in the States, but around the world. So this system is also not operated by solenoid valve. The Solution and the Solution X2 are operated by solenoid valves. Those are the components that are actually interlocked with the controllers. And the solenoid valves that we use are fail-closed solenoids. So in the event that the electric is lost, the electric power is lost to the feed system, those systems will fail closed. So you're not going to get any liquid bypassing on those as well. Again, another safety measure and an extra component of safety that you have with flow buys. But the Solution CN03 is operated with an electrically actuated ball valve. And so it works a little differently, but it works in essence the same way. When the controller calls for feed, it will open, and when it calls for no feed, it will close. But it's just a different system, again driven by a Venturi, which is really one of the things that we have determined as the biggest benefit to Venturi feed. The way that the bleach or chlorine or acid is mixed into the water so thoroughly, the the process of forming hypochlorous acid happens instantaneously, rather than as the chemical mixes with the water down the line and gets agitated. So it's a huge benefit to have feed injected via Venturi versus some other type of injection system.
Wow. I
Yeah.
learned so much in the last 25 minutes about Venturi system that I've seen them, but didn't, and I teach about it, but just to talk to somebody that actually works with them solely and that kind of thing, it's really cool to hear about the details and the benefits and stuff like that. Well, it's been wonderful having you on the podcast today. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. How can people get a hold of Surewater Technologies?
So you can go to our website, and it's so simple. Some people have accidentally put it into their browser inaccurately, but it's sureh2o.com. The company name is Surewater spelled out, but the website is SUREH, the number 2, the letter 0, or the letter O, not 0.com. So sureh2o.com. And there's product information there. There's a lot of documentation on the site if you want to look at some of the more technical information that would help you to make a decision if the system was right for your pool or not, for your operation in its application. And there's also contact information on that site. So if you want to give us a call, you can get us directly. You contact Pete. We're a small company, and you're likely to get Pete on the phone, the president and the designer of the system himself, directly. So that's
Awesome.
how you get us.
Awesome. Thank you for being on the podcast, Robert.
You're welcome, Lauren.
You have a wonderful day.
And you as well. Bye-bye.
Thanks for diving in today with the Let's Talk About Pools podcast. Be sure to follow us on our YouTube channel or our Facebook page. And feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts so more aquatic professionals like you can learn about the show. We appreciate it, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Let's Talk About Pools podcast.